kind of in relation to the whole idea of the incarnation, but from a different place, an unusual, less usual place for a Christmas passage, I guess, and that's Hebrews chapter 2. And I'm just going to read from verse 5 through the end of the chapter. I'm not going to make a lot of comments on it, but just thinking in terms of what is the kind of the significance of the incarnation. Here's what the author of Hebrews is talking about. It was not to angels that God subjected the world to come, of which we're speaking. It has been testified somewhere, what is man that you're mindful of him, or the son of man that you care for him? You made him for a little while lower than the angels. You've crowned him with glory and honor, putting everything in subjection under his feet. Now, in putting everything in subjection to him, he left nothing outside of his control. At present, we do not yet see everything in subjection to him, but we see him, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, namely Jesus, crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. For it was fitting that he, for whom and by whom all things exist, in bringing many sons to glory, should make the founder of their salvation perfect through suffering. For he who sanctifies and those who are sanctified all have one source. That is why he is not ashamed to call them brothers, saying, I will tell of your name to my brothers in the midst of the congregation. I will sing your praise. And again, I will put my trust in him. And again, behold, I and the children God has given me. Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, he himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery. For surely it is not angels that he helps, but he helps the offspring of Abraham. Therefore he had to be made like his brothers in every respect, so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service of God, to make propitiation for the sins of the people. For because he himself has suffered when tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. Just thinking of the significance of the incarnation and how so many people today think of just a little baby, but that baby is the one, of course, who took on our humanity and humbled himself to be totally dependent on others, in that body, so that he could grow, suffer the same temptations that we suffer, and ultimately bear our sin in his body on the cross. And just the profound significance of the incarnation. It's a pleasure to be able to have a time of year where we really focus on that. And as I teach Christian Narrative 1 in the fall, and this is actually going to change as we kind of rearrange our curriculum, but as I teach it in the fall, we always end with the fall. And we're kind of all this dark and gloomy looking at how sin has affected all of us. And then we have Christmas to look forward to. It's just a perfect way to lead into, for me, always the Christmas season, thinking, here is the darkness of sin, and then here is the light come into the world that we celebrate at Christmas. So I just love to think about that whole significance of Christ's incarnation at this time of year. We want to begin with prayer. Certainly we want to pray for Elaine's surgery. You probably got the email Sam sent at 6:45 today saying Elaine was checked in and morning. And things were going on schedule at that point. So she should be in surgery right now. And in another 45 minutes or so, Dan begins his dissertation defense at Catholic University. So pray for him. Any other things that we need to be praying for this morning as we begin?
A missionary that is actually based out of the Northwest, but is up in Alaska, just got word actually yesterday that the husband and daughter had left to fly to Anchorage and hadn't arrived. Saw on the Fox News this morning that a plane carrying 4 passengers leaving that particular little town going to Anchorage was missing, but there was debris found in the lake. And So just for that missions family, what sounds like they're losing a husband, father.
Anything else? All right, let me open this with prayer. Father God, we thank you so much. Thank you for your son. Thank you for the hope that we have in him. Thank you that because he was willing to humble himself to take on our humanity, to bear our sin, that we have no longer to fear death, that we are no longer captive to sin, but we are free in him. And we just thank you for that wonderful gift. We thank you for this time of year when we think about that. And we just pray that we would be not only mindful of that ourselves, but also that you give us plenty of opportunities to share that good news at this time of year with those that we encounter. I want to lift up to you some needs that we have in our family and near and far. I want to pray for Elaine this morning as she's going through surgery, and just pray that would go very well, that things would be without complications, and that not only would the surgery go well, but that she would recover well and quickly, just be with the whole family as they're with her and helping her in her recovery. Also pray for Dan today as he's defending his dissertation, and just thank you that you have brought him to this point, and pray that this would be a good ending to his long studies and all this hard work that he's put into preparing for this, that he would have a successful defense, and that he would have a good feeling of accomplishment as he comes to this milestone in his work. Also want to pray for this family in Alaska, this missions family, and just sounds like bad news that is facing them. We do pray, Lord, that you would just be very much with them at this time, comfort them, and just pray, Lord, that they would have a special sense of your grace and your love for them. Pray especially that your body would gather around them and support them and uphold them in very tangible ways. We pray for our meeting now and ask that you would help us as we deal with this business to be able to accomplish what we need to, and all with the goal of being more effective in our role here as those who are teaching your people, our students, how to understand and handle your word properly and well and faithfully. And we just pray that you would facilitate our work today, and we ask this in Christ's name. All right, a couple of things. Actually, I want to add one thing to the agenda, and we put it in actually right after, or right along with, I guess, this point on associate's degrees. But I'll talk about that first, the associate's degrees first. I've got a copy here of, and I hope I have enough. I didn't know how many to make. We had a request from actually came through Dan's manager, but it's about the business associate's degree. And we when we did our curriculum revision, we looked at the associate's degree in Bible, and we set that curriculum up. But because this is a degree in Bible, the question came up: how do we arrange the courses? Since 42 courses is what, or 42 credits is what we require for our bachelor's degrees for Bible, then Philip says he wants 21, exactly half of that for the associate's degrees. And so we have to look at which ones, because we had 8 or 24 credits, 8 courses or 24 credits before. And so what we proposed was to basically emphasize the Bible courses over the theology courses, as much as that breaks my heart. But the one that we looked at removing was Christian Narrative 1. And actually, when we talked about this, John, this is something I noticed when I was looking this over. When we had talked about this before, the schedule that Dan had sent had some errors in it. And so it should have had both Christian Narrative 1 and Christian Narrative 2. They had, I think, Life of Christ on there twice. They had thought that THE 224 was Life of Christ 1 or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was a mistake. So we actually have Christian Narrative 1 and Christian Narrative 2. So we actually got one more theology course than we thought. We thought they'd only get Prelude. But the question is then, which of those theology courses did we want to take out? And I thought that actually Christian Narrative 1 might be better to take out than Christian Narrative 2, in part because Christian Narrative 2 focuses on salvation, and also because in the sophomore year or fall semester, they have 18 credits with that in there. And if we took that out, that would drop it down to 15 credits, which would balance it better with the rest of the thing. So that was basically going to be our proposal when we thought that it was only Christian Narrative 1 that was in there to begin with, that we would drop Christian Narrative 1. But I would recommend that we just drop Christian Narrative 1 anyway, but keep Christian Narrative 2. And that would get us down to the 21 credit target for Bible and theology. But they also have a course that they want to teach as part of what the business core is, but that is a Bible course, at least at this point. That's Christian ethics. That is a rostered course, but I don't think we have taught that for as long as I've been here. So, so we're probably going to need to rework that, and we're talking about maybe developing it with a focus that would be applicable to, some of the focused elective concerns that we have for business and maybe for some other majors as well. But they want that as a part of their business program, so that gives them an additional Bible course in addition to the core ones that we have. But they count that as a business course or among their business core, so we don't have to consider that.
So this is for a business associates?
Yes.
Okay.
Associate's degree in business.
Okay, so this is the general, this is the business associates.
Right.
All of this is. Okay.
All of this is.
Okay.
And as they anticipate maybe having a couple of other associate's degrees for other departments, we would basically want to probably have the same courses that we would recommend for the 21 credits in those as well. So while we're looking at this specifically in relation to the business program, this would be really a decision we're making for other associates. Yeah. So I guess that what we need to do is discuss whether you think that's that proposal is a good one, and then I guess vote to say whether we would approve that change or that plan for associate's degrees going forward.
As the other theology guy, I agree with you. I would rather, if we're going to take away a theology, it would be one, because in OT, you can talk about creation, you talk about fall.
Yeah.
But theology is not discussed from a theological perspective as much when you get into the New Testament courses, because you don't really get into the epistles where there's a lot of the explanation. In depth. I know you deal with the epistles, but
Yeah, and that's where we deal with some of the issues like Calvinism and Arminianism, and the nature of justification, the nature of the atonement, some of those things that we dig into in a more theological way that probably you have opportunity to in the Bible service.
yeah, New Testament sermon.
Joe, you saying Christian ethics is installed? Is that what we're debating?
They want that.
Okay.
Yes,
That's not what we're really talking about. That's not really what we're dealing with. That's
Right. So that's not included in our core for Bible theology, but that's something that the business people want as a part of their program. So they want it not just for this, but that's one of the electives that they want to specify for those who are getting a bachelor's in business as well. thoughts? All right, we have a motion, second that we adopt that.
We just did that.
Gordon moved, I seconded.
Okay,
Gordon moved.
that happened so quickly. Okay.
We're not messing around.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The other thing is approval for a focused elective, and this has been, we developed this in conjunction with Esther Zimmerman, and this is a part of their children and family ministry concentration, or I don't know, she calls it a program, I'm not sure exactly how that fits into the terminology of what it is. But anyway, it's one of the things that they're offering as a part of
Yeah,
this.
yeah, so that changed.
That's true,
Two
that's
ends
right.
in E, that's.
Two ends in E.
She's still in Scotland.
Yeah. But she wants to have a focused elective in children, theology of children, youth, and family ministry. And so she talked with Sam and I, and we went over some of the requirements for the focused electives, and this is the proposal that she sent back. Looks like a great course. I think she would co-teach it with her husband, actually. She had proposed would be the one who would be teaching this. But I guess we need to, since it's a PhD course, we need to approve this as a focused elective and then pass that on to the academic council. So I guess I'm the only one here who was in part of talking about this with her, so I can answer any question that I suppose that you have, but as far as my knowledge of it goes. But
They're talking about using it for social work as well, and we have another one for social work. Would that change the order of things that you would be developing courses for? One of the first ones was.
well, we actually have two other courses that are sort of social work oriented. So because that Christian political engagement is one that they're using as kind of a way to help them to think about some policy issues from a Christian perspective as well. So this would probably be, we would probably move on to focus on other departments after this, but this would give them three that they could choose from, which is what, in terms of focused electives they have.
So the theology of suffering, that would be the other one. you're talking
Yeah, theology of suffering, right. And both of those were rolling out this fall, so.
Will that cause a problem for enrollment, or?
I don't think so. I think that this is primarily for the children and family ministry, and I think she was just thinking kind of could increase its scope a little if people in the social work wanted to take it, especially if they're going to be working with children and families.
How big is children and family, do you know? How
I
many
don't.
students they have enrolled?
I don't know.
I mean, as I read this, it seems to have the focus on the biblical content, and theological understanding, certainly from the description in SLO.
Yeah, in fact, she sat down with us and we went over, what we were looking for, and she was careful to incorporate that. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with what she came back with. It sounds like it'll be a great course.
Motion to approve.
I'll say it second. That's right. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, then I will turn it over to Gordon. He's going to talk about what's going on with the doctrinal statement committee.
Okay, the main thing that we talked about this past time was fleshing out a little bit of what Dr. Grube wants with regard to the various groups. And what we did was we looked at what those might be, and then what are we going to require of those groups. We didn't quite finish everything. But we have some thoughts, and I'm not looking for a lot of discussion now, but if you have some input, you can certainly give that to us. Let me just talk to the bottom half first, because in these we differentiate essentials and then our distinctives. Okay, so the areas of distinctives: gifts of the Spirit, universal atonement, eternal security, beginning of the church at Pentecost, pre-tribulation and premillennialism, pre-tribulation, rapture, and premillennialism. And then we did have that question on those two issues of the first human Adam. That's the term. I mean, that's what it says. These others are summaries, but that's the particular term that is used or phrase. And then everlasting conscious punishment of the law, and particularly the everlasting conscious. That's the main thing, not the punishment, but everlasting conscious. And we still need to take a decision as a department where those are going to fit, but we can do that after we have finished looking at groups and what we're going to require of them, because that seemed to be a part of the issue last time. So here is what we came up with, and actually these first four, all of them must affirm the essentials. So we talked about entering students, that would be at all levels. And at this point, that is all that we require, that entering students will sign the doctrinal statement. We don't say anything about graduating students. So we thought we would adjust that a bit and say that they must affirm the essentials and understand that we will teach in accord with the entirety of the doctrinal stand. So as they come in, they're not surprised. And certainly, I don't know how a good portion of our students sign our doctrinal stand at this point. Because we've got plenty of Pentecostal students, students that would not hold to eternal security, that would
Not hold to pre-tribulation rapture.
yeah. So I'm not sure what they're signing, or they're not sure. I think, I don't know. They just sign it. So I think this is fair for us to do that. Okay, for graduating seminary students, this was something they did at Calvary Seminary, that the students, as they graduate from the seminary, must affirm the essentials and then note any points of difference with the distinctives, and that's mainly for us. It's not that we're going to deny them graduation, but it's that we want to be fair to churches that we might be making recommendations to, that we know where the students stand on issues if they're different from where we stand. Okay, then thirdly, staff and non-Bible and theology faculty. Now, this one must affirm the essentials and not teach contrary to our distinctives. And I wasn't sure, and we didn't actually discuss final wording on this, but the idea was that they do not teach contrary to our distinctives. And in their roles as LBC, and then that's, oh, I put an extra S there. I got that backwards. Capital Seminary Graduate School, sorry, got my S and C backwards. CSGS, yes. I do that with numbers sometimes. And part of that is, as I think about how to state that, we sometimes have faculty, visiting faculty members that come in. And we know that they hold to some different points of view on some of the distinctives. So that's maybe have to massage how we say that a little bit, but in their teaching role. And we really don't want them to teach contrary while they're working for us, but I'm not sure how to state that. But maybe
Just a
this is-
clarification, so Gordon, that would be anybody, staff and non-Bible theology, that's anybody, you're designating a group that's outside of this department.
That's right.
So where it could be CML, for
Right.
instance. Okay.
And that was a part of our discussion as well. What do we do with CML? Because they're teaching the scriptures quite a bit. But again, we are saying that they're not going to teach contrary to where we stand in our doctrinal stand. Now the question is, are they going to need to be on the same level as Bible and theology? By the way, we haven't determined how to state that one yet. Tim and Dan are working on. That was the one that we didn't have a chance to finalize, as you'll see on that last point. Now, the other one is partnering organizations, and this is the way things are right now. They must affirm the essentials and have freedom. They have freedom to teach in accord with any distinctives that are different than ours. So
But that's not teaching here, that's teaching at
At
large.
their-
of-
yeah,
That would be like
cuts,
cuts,
the
and
Yeah.
then cuts.
and then actually in Spanish River, they asked students to look at both their doctrinal stand and ours. So.
What does that mean? They look
And
at
then the students have to explain any differences that they have with either one of them. So,
I know they're Presbyterian Church, how different are they from us, other than maybe
well, I will say this,
extended atonement?
actually, their doctrinal stand is much more general than ours.
Okay.
And so I don't even think they state that. They don't state a particular position on eschatology.
No, I'm not too surprised.
So I would have to go back and look at it, but I don't remember seeing something that said, yeah. So, yeah. But I do want to hear, any red flags that go up immediately in your thinking on what we've done here so far?
Is your partnering organization's policy reflecting our current policy, or is this what you're suggesting?
That's what we're currently doing.
Okay.
And I think we have a difficult time suggesting something different.
But this is just reflecting our policy.
Yes.
So how does that fit into biblical integration then? I mean, what is the relationship of the faculty of the partnering organizations with us?
Yeah.
Especially if they're teaching a Bible and theology.
Right. We're giving them credit. So if they came to our
Yeah, they would.
program, they would still have those credits.
Let me just share a quick story. When I was interviewed by our president last year for this position, one of the main questions that he addressed to me is, are you aware of what's going on in Wheaton? With the issue there. So I know that it's a big concern of his that we're not kind of run down and set up a scenario where we could have a similar situation. So that's my only thought to this, is like, we need to be careful to make sure that we don't set ourselves up in it.
Well, I don't know that you're gonna,
You're not gonna protect yourself.
yeah, I mean, for that situation, you know, you're not gonna have in the doctrinal statement
Yeah.
that the you know, the Allah and the Christian God are not the same. I mean, you know, it's implied, I guess we would say, but
If you understand who they say they are.
yeah. But, you know, I'm not sure that this is gonna fix that. What I'm concerned with really is, I mean, this goes beyond, I guess, this whole issue, but it is an issue that kind of relates to that, and that is what happens as we continue to hire faculty in other departments that don't have any kind of Bible background. How can we even know what questions to ask and, you know, how to assess their viewpoint. Are they going to, you know, have a moralistic understanding of Jesus' teaching, you know, and not see any difference between that and what's in our doctrinal statement. And I guess that's just something that we have to, you know, we have to look at in terms of hiring and those kinds of things. But I think that's where we're going to run into that problem. This can help, but I don't see that there's any real way to try to proactively prevent that. You know,
I think
with
we
the
lost that one a
doctrinal
while back, though.
Hmm?
I think we lost that one a while back. We really haven't had significant theological input into faculty hires in a while.
I could just get some clarity, as I'll need to take this back to Philly.
Mhm.
But it almost sounds like it's kind of saying two things here. Must affirm the essentials and have freedom to teach in accord with any distinctives that are different. So are those distinctives that would be different non-essential?
Yes, those would be the areas down at the bottom.
Okay. Okay, so that this list is distinctives that are non-essential.
That's correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's the distinction that we're making between
So it's basically
essentials.
two categories.
So this is where we would
Essentials
have the freedom. It's in these categories. Okay.
We have a list of the essentials somewhere that would probably.
Well, it'd be anything else that's in the. bottom.
Anything else that's not this is the essential. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What about a student that comes in and says, I'm really happy to be here. I don't know much about this inerrancy thing. I don't know that I could sign it one way or the other. I hadn't really thought about it before. Would we keep that student from coming here?
Oh, I think that, as we think about, yeah, that is the one issue with stating it as affirm the essentials, because they may not
You could ask
even
them.
understand what they're
Yeah.
talking about.
Or maybe he's gotten saved recently and
Well,
I would imagine it wouldn't be an issue, but I'm just, that's my only question.
but that's probably true with any of the others. I think there are a lot of new Christians who come in and they don't really understand the Trinity. They don't understand the incarnation. You know, I mean,
Could we add maybe some other faculty members in other departments to it?
maybe that too. Yeah.
What if we said accept the essentials? Is that?
Okay.
Might be
Yeah.
a better word appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think graduating students, seminary students affirming the essentials.
Yes.
That's a good one. Yeah, would be a good one to keep, but for entering students.
Okay. Yeah. That's a.
And I'm not
that's a good point.
suggesting we should change it for other faculty members. I'm just saying.
I know what you mean.
They always.
Yeah, I like accept better. It's
Yeah.
softer.
Yeah, affirm means you understand it and you say, yes, I am there. So.
How would you implement, Gordon, the second group? So if someone comes in and they accept, I don't know if you're gonna do that with them either, the seminary students accept or affirm the essentials. Are we gonna wait until they graduate and then we'll ask them before, after they've taken X number of classes? Or will there be a time halfway through the program where they're, are you still okay with us? Have you?
I would actually do that at the time when they graduate, in some kind of graduation exit interview kind of thing. And the reason for that is that students might change near the end of their program, some view that they have. And so again, this is not about allowing them to graduate or not.
Okay,
It's about, again, if we're asked to make a recommendation to a church or to an organization, we want to be able to reflect.
But if the statement says a graduating seminary student must affirm the essentials, that is about graduation.
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean.
But if you connect it with in order to be recommended by the faculty, they must.
State it that way.
But what if we have somebody who says, oh, I don't accept the Trinity, and they want to graduate?
Yeah.
Right, that happens.
Yes, and I.
Maybe.
Or inerrancy is one
Inerrancy.
that would be very
Yeah.
common, actually.
Out west, we had a student at the end tell us he's not convinced that there's a God. I mean, okay.
Why are we here?
Yeah. That happened over Sunday? So it does happen.
Well, I think, I don't have any problem saying that we don't want to graduate somebody who doesn't affirm the essentials, what we consider the essentials. Otherwise, what are we saying in our graduates, you know?
The
they don't have to-
dilemma is
That
can we
point-
legal?
Yeah.
Because if they've
At that
taken all the
point-
classes at the end, they've done everything to meet, and then all of a sudden,
You said you can't graduate,
that gets hard.
I mean, that could be a huge legal riot. Especially if they don't believe in God,
Well,
so you.
We have, I mean, at the undergraduate level, though, don't we require our students to profess faith in Christ in order to graduate?
I would have to look at I looked at the requirements for graduation, I forget what they are.
And perhaps the issue is not waiting until right before they graduate to have them make that affirmation. I don't know. Is it possible to do it earlier?
Well, yeah, that's some schools. I think it was Masters College years ago when I checked it. They meet with them halfway through the program to say, are you still able to accept the essentials or whatever it is? I don't know. I don't know accept. And then if they did not, if they changed their position, then they weren't allowed to continue the program.
We have some students that still have not, that privately will say they don't profess faith. I don't know if they graduated. I don't know why they're here.
Yeah.
There's another thing on the accreditation. And if you look at all the diplomas that are given out, it'll state on there that it's by the approval of the faculty and the administration and the board.
Yeah.
And so all of those are, and the accreditation, and when we have our visit this coming spring, the accreditors, the team is going to be looking for the vote of the faculty. And we haven't done that in the last couple of years. But that's a normal thing that as a member of the team that you look for if you're doing the programs, the academic programs, is you look for that approval from the faculty, and the faculty have the right to deny graduation to any student that they want if they vote against it. And so, but that both MSA and ADHE have that in their statements. So that's one thing that, you know, we haven't done it if you've been around for long. We haven't had a faculty meeting at the end of the semester where the students have applied to graduate, and then the faculty votes on to approve that.
Is that what they're doing when they send around the list, is asking us to?
They don't.
When they respond.
No, there's no response.
Well, but that only makes sense because, say for instance, you're in another field like engineering, medicine or something, and you see that there's a character issue with the person, even though they've passed all their courses. You don't want to graduate them as someone who's going to be harmful to other people, even though, you know, I don't think that there should, you know, so I spiritually, it's harmful to send a graduate out there with an LBC degree who does not believe in the Trinity. I mean, that's just, they're going out and they're going to teach heresy. And that's.
And they have our name attached.
And they're going to have our name attached to it. And I think that we have, I think we have a strong interest in saying we don't want that person to graduate.
Okay, well, I agree. I think you need to.
Yeah,
move
we
on.
do.
As far as
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Gordon. Clint, you want to talk about Friends of Israel? This was the proposal that they asked if we wanted to kind of adopt the program, and Clint was going to look into it because you knew the guy at Karen who was
Right,
working on it,
because
right?
what happened with them and Karen, so they were with Karen from 96 to I think 2007. And what prompted that was when their director, Mark Rosenthal, advocated the pre-wrath rapture, and so then he left Friends of Israel, and then they sought for some organization because the new director was not all that thrilled with the one-year missionary program of the Jewish program. So that's when Karen took it over, and so that was 1996. Pretty much, they had their own board. Now this was the experience with Karen, and he was the director of the program. Bill Cruson was, I didn't know that, but he was the director. He said, so their program had pretty much total control of
The Friends of
professors.
Israel people had
Yes.
self-control.
So he gave, for instance, they put something, they had a class, it was taught by Karen Crockwell's PBU back then, or PCB. And it was on something on ministering or sharing Christ, in the course description, how to share Christ with Jewish people. And they had to take that out because they had lost Jews that supported them. But they didn't believe in evangelizing Jews, so it's kind of strange.
Friends of Israel doesn't?
No, that was their constituent who was not a constituent of the Friends of Israel, who was not a Jewish Christian. They were Jews, but they didn't accept Christ. But they supported
Friends
what
of
the
Israel.
Friends of Israel were doing. So that was kind of one of the areas where a control matter came up. So that was just one thing Bill said, you might want to just, get it in writing, who has control and what is that control for? But they had it going for years, and it was not Karen that ended it. It was Friends of Israel when the new president, I think he was Todd Williams, said we need to have a broader based doctrinal statement. And in essence, that meant taking out the pre-trib rapture. And when they did that, Friends of Israel pulled out. They said, you don't represent what we are, our distinctive pre-trib rapture. They had the program going on, he said he thought in Jersey for a matter of years, but it had diminished in academic rigor. They didn't have the scope and sequence that they once had. They appealed to Bill to kind of develop an online form of this, and he declined. So last he heard, they had talked to PBC, or I don't know if their name is PBC or Summit, I can't remember. And he has no idea what happened there. So this is the next thing he heard. So, Sam said that he and whoever else, I don't know, maybe someone on the team here is, with Philip, is going to meet with the rep. And they're just gonna talk it over and see if this is gonna work or not. That's it.
I don't know that we have to actually do anything in relation to that, but that's just kind of update on where things are, and I guess we'll see what their proposal is. But that does alert us to some of those issues, like particularly the whole issue of control and scope and sequence and rigor of the program. Those are things that I think we definitely want to think about and ask about in that.
What did help is that Bill was the director, and he also was a professor in the Bible department at the college. So that's what kind of brought me in.
Joe, I just got a text from Sam. He said the cancer surgeon just came out and said the first stage is complete and went very well.
Great.
Reconstruction work is beginning now for 5 or 6 hours.
Real quickly here, because we'll need to end shortly, but on Monday, we've got the rep from Logos coming in to campus, and he's going to be meeting with Philip and a number of other groups over through the day. So our hope is that we will be able to, the purpose of this is this is the opportunity we have to have questions to Logos about things that we're still concerned about, get those answered, particularly in the mind of the administration, with the idea that we will be able to re-implement Logos into our curriculum starting next year. So, fall of next year. So that will mean probably that we'll need to do some more work in terms of thinking about now how to train and integrate and all of that, not just students but also faculty. But I think that things are looking pretty positive at this point. We'll know more after our meeting on Monday. So That's kind of where things stand. But a number of you were there too, but we met with just a couple of reps from Lagos at ETS. We were able to ask some questions. They obviously they want it to work for us, and we want it to work for us. So hopefully we'll be able to get it to that point. Anything you wanted to add, Doug, just in terms of?
The fellow will be here Monday and then half the day on Tuesday, so he'll be around. Meetings will be here, so if you want to talk to him, and he's available, he'd be happy to talk to anybody apart from any of the structured meetings that we have designed also, so.
And there are things that they're doing on their end that might be possible for us to implement as far as taking modules from some of the courses that they've developed and just kind of adapting or dropping into our courses, some of the training things, because they've kind of taken their training and worked it piece by piece through the courses. So here's the task you want to do, here's how you do it, rather than trying to have one whole course where all you do is kind of learn all the buttons and everything, and then you forget it because you didn't really have it learned in context, So that might be something to ask them about if you wanted to see, about implementing it. And just the last couple of things here. Last time we talked about the Bible Ed major as something that's coming to us, and apparently, after Sam talked to Phil about this, we have basically the ability to kind of write that as we want. So we can form that as we want. The main thing is that they do want it to kind of address that student who wants to be a Bible teacher, like at a high school or something like that. So there does need to be a Bible education component, but the way it was before, it was basically elementary ed with some Bible, and that's not what, this we can design it another way. Another thing that Sam said, he was telling me yesterday, that it's looking very good for the possibility of bringing the pre-sem major into our department. In fact, he'd said he'd mentioned something to Rick a while back, and it was kind of around the time of Rick's stroke, and so kind of didn't go anywhere at that point. And then he said the other day, Rick was saying to him, you know what, I think the pre-seminary major might work better in Bible than with us. What would you think about taking it over?
Nice.
So, yeah.
So it was up there.
Yeah, it was.
And it's better as his idea.
Yeah.
And just to let you know that some thinking in the works is even on the possibility of developing kind of an accelerated MDiv sort of thing, where we would have, like the other departments and like in counseling and education, kind of a 5-year, 6-year program where they would go right from bachelor's to the MDiv, and then they would have an accelerated program. So that's something that we'll be probably thinking about as time goes on, how we would want to implement something like that.
I'm just thinking, wasn't a part of the MDiv program almost built on the presupposition that the person had some years of ministry?
That may be true.
I don't think so as much as it built on the.
The doctor ministry typically requires that. But did the MDiv here for a period of time?
I think they just had the question was that you could have the advanced standing if you had Bible under.
Yeah.
I don't remember
But,
anything about your
well,
sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I seem to remember something when they were first talking about it,
Yeah.
that they were hoping to, make this appeal to people who are kind of involved in ministry.
So anyway, maybe some of the guys from Capitol might remember some of that too, and just be able to shed some light on that. That's the only thing that I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I went straight from college to seminary, so.
But I think we do have students who go basically right into our
Yeah, we do.
MDiv program, so I don't think it's a major problem, but yeah, I remember as mentioned that that's something I think they said when they first were at least proposing it.
Whether it
But who
actually
knows?
works out
Yeah,
that way.
who knows what that ends up being. All right, any other things to mention or alert everybody to? Don't forget Thursday. our Shady Maple breakfast.
7:30 from here.
I think it's 8 from here, right, or 8:15?
8 or 8:15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it starts.
So we
Yeah,
started at
just having
9
it a
out
little
there.
later so that people from different campuses don't have to leave so early.
Good idea.
Yeah, and
I asked.
You'd be here real early.
He was thinking they left without him.
yeah, I think
breakfast
that's
before I go.
about it. So, all right. Well, let me quick close this in prayer, and then let you guys go the rest of your day. Father God, thank you so much for this time that we've had to discuss these things. We pray that you continue to guide us as we work through some of these issues, in particular the doctrinal statement and the Friends of Israel and just the continued development of our programs here. We just pray that you would guide us and that you grant us success in forming these so that they would be most effective in promoting our mission here, which is to train our students to be able to serve you well in whatever calling you have, with good knowledge of Bible and a biblical worldview. Just ask that you go with us. Ask you to be with Elaine now as she's continuing on in her surgery, this next phase of reconstruction. And again, ask that would go well. And we pray all this in Christ's name.